today's edition of Capital Straight Talk, Capital FM's Elvis Wahua speaks to the president of Umodzi Party, John Chisi.
Professor Chisi, you are raising concerns about Malawi's economy. You're saying no systems are being put in place or no measures are being put in place to ensure that it gets back on track. What is it exactly that you're trying to point out?
You know, every economic system needs an injection of cash or an injection of something to make it tick. In Malawi at the moment, if you look at our tobacco issues and all these other issues, it's very unlikely that we're going to meet our targets which we require to kickstart. But I was thinking, and I came up with this conclusion, and I'm hoping that my fellow Malawians will listen to this and see if it's real or not. The Malawi government is owing a lot of money to our traders, you know, the people who supply goods to the government. These guys, they are owed billions. Now I'm wondering how the government expects for these people to manufacture when they don't have the capital base, and that capital base has been eaten by government. Because if they didn't supply to government, obviously government would have no issue. But I'm asking government now because it's the greatest employer in the country, for example, for taxing systems, but also is the one which trades a lot with the private traders, with our manufacturing bases as local Malawians. Insofar as they don't give that money to the traders, I don't expect the budget coming, which we'll start discussing soon, to make sense. It will be the same scenario as we had last year, where we had to cut it down because there want to be enough targets. MRA will not be able to meet it. Why? And I'm asking the government now, directed to them, not no one else. And I know government is monitoring this and they're listening. Why can't you get loans or a loan to pay back these loans for our traders, our businessmen who you owe money to? Because if you get that loan, you will not only know how much money you have injected in the system, because you will know how much money you have, but at the same time, when you're setting targets for MRA, they will make sense. Because just give an example. If you owe these private traders 10 billion kwacha, I can assure you, at least 2 billion kwacha, or even 3 billion kwacha, if you look at 30%, 3 billion kwacha will go back to government. Now, you will not have any debt with them, but you have collected from them another 3 billion kwacha, which then you can use to either pay back the debt a little bit where I've gotten it from, but also to actually kickstart some of the issues were required. And I also know that loans the government have got a grace period. So if you get a loan of a grace period of 5 years or 10 years, you can actually see how that injection can actually not only kickstart a long-term process of economic activities, but at the same time lessen the pressures which we have as a nation where we don't have income. Now, I am expecting that this thing should be real, and I really want this debate to be taken on, because we cannot be complaining all the time that we don't have resources, the MRA is missing targets, and we don't have what we need. Yet the government itself would actually help us by injecting capital using the system they have. So this is why I'm here today, to say no, we can move forward, and no, we can improve from our own resources, because this will be our own resources. It won't depend on donor, it won't depend on anything. It's our own resources. We have taken responsibility for it, and we should be able to manage it. And that's what I think we should do. I want to give this idea now, so that when they're having a budget, they should not blame us to say the budget is not doing, you're not giving ideas, you people in opposition, as we're called, you're not helping, you're just talking. We want to actually be partners now in development. And
why do you think that isn't happening? Isn't it an issue to do with leadership, poor management of things? Isn't it all? That's what it is all about. Why should someone fail to resuscitate an economy?
You've answered yourself, and I don't want to say this exactly what you have said, but the truth of the matter is everything hinders on the leadership. No matter how things are, leadership cannot exonerate himself from it, because leadership takes the overall responsibility. Whether they've done it or not is not the issue. The issue is they have got systems, and they have got the whole country to use in order to get to the solution of a problem. Now, if they're not using the whole system of Malawi, all of us as citizens, because we are all part of Malawi government, no matter what. We are born in Malawi. If you have got a passport, Malian passport, you are part of government, and therefore government, the president has got leadership, which is the president of the cabinet. They've got the right to use everybody. And I don't think there's anyone who can refuse to participate fully. But the issue we're having in Malawi is lack of understanding what government is lack of understanding what national building is lack of understanding what we need to have, it's lack of understanding of vision. And this has resulted from our lack of understanding what we need to do. So we as a people now, we have reached a point where we are suffering a lot more than we would have otherwise suffered. We are not able to critique ourselves because we're scared that we are going to lose benefit of criticism. We're not able to move forward because we don't know where we're going. And the leadership deliberately, they're not telling us what to do because they don't want us to be opened up. Because if we open up, they cannot abuse us. So the idea is keep us down, abuse us, and then they stay themselves and they're looking at us in a very interesting manner, which I think is not good for the nation. It's not good for the future of our country. It's not good for our prosperity. is something which we need to question and be very serious that we need to move forward.
There have been comments in the public domain by some members of the public who have said Malawi will never develop, it will never move from where it is to anywhere else better because everything is just not okay. The people are not willing enough, the leaders are not willing enough to ensure that their lives and their nation improves. So maybe that's where the matter should be concluded. Malawi can go anywhere.
Unfortunately, we're the global village. If we don't go anywhere, we're going to be a burden on other people, and our people will be dying, and this will cause embarrassment to the international community. But for us ourselves, our dignity will go, because we're going to be here. Malawi is going to be here for generations. The only time Malawi will not be here, if there's a catastrophe that all human nature is wiped out. But if human nature is here, Malawi will be there, I can assure you. So in another billion years from now, Malawi will still be here. Now the issue is, the fundamentals of Malawi we have to think about, because if we do not create fundamentals of Malawi, we're actually going to be laughing stock. And it's not fair that you can actually have people even today who don't have soap, people who are literally wanting, and people, everybody is begging from everybody else. Even the people in authority where they shouldn't be begging, they should be able to create, they know what they know is begging. Now, when you beg somebody, you're actually preferring that person. You're making that person a hero. You're making that person a god. You are putting yourself down. You're becoming a slave. You're becoming a servant. And I don't think it's fair that we all have got the faculties which God give us, and we all can think properly, and we all can manage the things properly, and we can all invent things to actually worship other people at the expense of our own dignity. So to me, that is an issue which we need to consolidate and to make sure that we manage what we're doing. So I get worried, I get concerned when I've got people who are here, people who are defeated, people who have no focus, people who have no vision. Anyone who tells you what you have said, that America never develop, is a sign that they have no vision, they are not focused, and they don't even mind. And I don't think you can have people in a nation who think like that and develop a nation. So maybe they're right, but as far as I'm concerned, if we put together our minds and unite and have a common vision, I'm very hopeful that Malawi, being one of the countries which is very fortunate in terms of natural resources which God has given us. I've traveled in Germany, for example. Germany is just hills, literally hills, and they're very developed. Switzerland is basically mountains, and they're developed. You cannot even plant anything in some areas of Switzerland, it's just mountains. Impossible. And then they've got half of the year snow. You know, anything which you do here, they have never been grown a mango, neither have they grown a banana. But they have those things. So what it means is basically, people, when they organize themselves, they know the greater good of the nation, they have innovation and they create systems which, when united and agreed upon, can actually function. Now, unless we understand that, unless we understand why people like myself are talking every day, trying to convince a lot of us who have had an opportunity like me to see things on a bigger picture, but we are so much afraid of our own lives, afraid of our opportunities we have, because we believe there is somebody greater than us who can give us the opportunities. That's the wrong attitude. Because if you have reached my level and you're still scared of your own survival, your own life, then there's a problem. I think somewhere there, you need to question yourself, what was this education for in your life? How did it change you? Because as far as I'm concerned, education is supposed to change your behavior. It makes you see more things and it makes you to have confidence. And the confidence I'm having is because I'm educated. If I was not educated, I don't think I would have it. So I'm expecting people like me, and there are many of us. I'm not the only professor in Malawi, neither am I the one with a PhD. There are many of us with PhDs in this country. At the same time, quite a lot of my colleagues, when they see me, they look at me as if I'm special. I'm not. I'm like everyone else in this country who cares in the same vein. And I believe strongly that if we stick together, have a common vision, we can change this country. But you're not going to be changed by the people who are being suppressed, the people in the rural areas, people who are being abused, the people who are used for political gain, people who are given handouts. Those are not going to change this nation. It's us. By understanding, coming up with strategic objectives, helping our government as I'm doing, and making sure that we move together as a team, as a nation, we'll change it. But otherwise, we will not. And I do not believe that we can't, because we are capable. Otherwise, we will not have what we have.
In the program today, Kabir FM's Elvis Wahoa is speaking to the president of Umodzi Party, John Chisi.
Let's talk about issues of political parties and how they operate, etc. There have been observations that perhaps Malawi needs to get rid of some of the parties. They're called briefcase parties, to get rid of them because they don't add any value at all. They compete during general elections, but once that is done, they know where to be seen. They can't voice out what they feel, etc. What's your take?
Yeah, because I think Malawians were used to dictatorship. You know, our problems is we do not want to cross-fertilize ideas. We want status quo. And even today, you see people are talking of Kamuzu. They will be so nostalgic about Kamuzu. Yet Kamuzu is the major problem which we have had.
What do you mean by that? Others say Kamuzu laid the foundation and Kamuzu got Malawi to where it is. There is no other leader that has come through in these years that has done what Kamuzu did. I'll cite an example, infrastructure. I'll cite an example, education was better than they say. What do you mean by that?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Nostalgia is the problem. Kamuzu was a president at the time when there was Cold War, at the time when there were a lot of support, Europeans were fighting. So even if you had put a dog on the office of the president, you should have done something. That's a fact. I'm not saying Kamuzu was a dog. Don't misunderstand me. Don't quote me the wrong way. What I'm saying to you is that Kamuzu had no choice, because Kamuzu never had manifesto. So he never told anybody what he was doing. He just did it. And if anybody else disagreed with him, you would just arrest him. Now you see, this is what happened with Kamuzu. And I'm going to let Malawians know this. This is the truth. Kamuzu never formed the MCP. There were people who did form the MCP, and they called him. As soon as he consolidated power, he had the cabinet crisis. What was that about? That was to get rid of everybody who understood and who knew what politics was. And then we started hero worshipping him. That hero worshipping him created him to be a dictator. If you can actually look at the amount of wealth Kamuzu accumulated, which you cannot even question, because he didn't have any system of anti-corruption bureau or anything. It was huge. And Kamuzu basically messed our country up to the point where you can't believe it. He deliberately created systems which would make him succeed at a lower level, because his population was not big enough. You know, he was only dealing with something like 1 to 6 million people by the time he died. So 6 million people, the whole Malawi, is not a difficult thing to do. And even the systems you're talking about, electricity, was not even there in most areas when Kamuzu was arrived. So it is not that Kamuzu was good, but it's Kamuzu who laid the foundation of what we have now. Because getting rid of all the people in cabinet who became rebels, and they died very bad deaths wherever they are, he created the Mikuyu systems, which made people so afraid. Even University of Malawi, people couldn't speak. I would not be speaking here under Kamuzu. It was impossible. And yet we could not cross-fertilize ideas. He was even scared of novels which people were writing. This is the guy who was so paranoid and so bad for our country that the people actually today they are nostalgic about him. It shows you. To make it even worse, when we said we want to do democracy, we didn't even do democracy. We put Bakiri there because of the same nostalgia of wanting to be a dictator. He wanted a third term, and he was not even able to accept that the constitution was there. We created a constitution which was good. They moved the things there, the section 64, 65, they removed everything else so they can consolidate dictatorship. Even now, if you're talking about power base, people are refusing to give it up because they want to be dictators. You know, that dictatorship tendency has not gone. Now, when Bakiri failed, after bribing people, by the way, so that they should vote in his favor, yet he knew that his constitution was not allowing it. He said, fine, you have refused me, I will show you. So he put a Bingu wa Mtarika, who we don't even know where he came from, and we had no history of the guy, and he became our leader. And this was consolidated. They fought amongst themselves because they now started understanding each other. Bingu couldn't even agree that he could actually form a party and leave it to somebody else. He left it with his brother. Joseph Bana tried to play the games in politics to say, no, I want to be leader. She was removed immediately. And that's dictatorship beyond any means. Not only that, the guy was even quoting was to create a situation of pure dictatorship. And we're clapping hands. Now we're being ruled by the person who Bingu made for us to rule us. We could not even understand where Peter came from and what he had done. This information is not available. You ask any Malawian anywhere. He was not even there when I was growing up. I never heard there was a Peter Mtarika. But obviously, he's now our leader. This is what we're doing. To make it even more exciting, Bakir has totally refused to give you the up. His son is running the thing. Now, this is the person who was mentored by Kamuzu in the same system. Now you're expecting us, as a people, to move forward. We can't, because the talents which are in our parties I never met use. It's just these things have become briefcase issue for them. They're bigger briefcases than ours, if you want to call them briefcase, because the only difference is that they're perpetuating a leadership because of extraction, because they know that these people give them whatever they need. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. The Malawians, one thing I find as difficult is we can get anything from anyone, we don't ask where it's coming from. We are really perpetuating this kind of bad habits. That's why people can be corrupt and sell government drugs, because nobody asks questions, they just buy. People can give you anything, you don't ask questions. We have no conscience as people, and because we have no conscience as people, we have created political systems which have no conscience for us. Now we are suffering the worst suffering which we would ever get, and it can only get worse than this. And I really dread to see how bad it will be if it can be worse than this, because we have not been able to appreciate and understand what is that we need as the people. The country has got people, and people have got talents. When those talents put together, the greater talent is actually supposed to be used more than other talents.
For how long have you been the president of Umodzi Party, Professor Chisi?
The Umodzi Party is only 2 years. 2-3 years. It just did 2 elections. It was formed in 2013. So if people want to have Umodzi to be leadership, it's very open. Umodzi is a party which would actually be there for unity. okay, is there for the purpose of actually educating people. Is there.
You failed during the 2014 general elections. Would you give the seat up to give another person a chance?
Yeah, obviously, if we have got the convention and people feel that I'm not the right person, that's not an issue. In democracy, you have to accept. It's not a matter of being in power or wanting to be this or that. No, where does the country go? What is the direction of the nation, and how does it want to go? Umodzi party, unfortunately, is a smaller party as people define it. It's been building up, and have taken the responsibility to be spearheading the building. And I'm very confident that with time, people will see the focus, because a lot of people are scared of loving their country. The reason why we are not talking here, many of us in this way, is because most of us who have got responsibilities of one kind or another, we are scared because we think that our friends who have got power will make our life difficult. This cannot be a reason to be scared, because democracy requires that everybody listens to everybody else. And if we have accepted that we want to be democratic rather than dictatorship, then our friends in power, they'll take the hit. If they cannot take the hit, then they're not democratic. So the whole thing is a catch-22. So if everybody is scared still now, when we have removed Kamuzu who was killing us, yet people don't think that they can actually be looked after their interests if they take a different stand, or they will not benefit from their country if they take a different stand, we cannot move forward. The truth of the matter is, if we're united, we're focused, people should speak their mind. I come from an academic background where when we sit in meetings of academia, we are all equal. There's no one who's not equal. We disagree, we agree, we move forward. We don't have class barriers in academia. So to me it's easy to speak my mind, because this is what I've been trained in my academia. And unfortunately, some of the colleagues we have, some of the people we have can't speak because they're scared that if they do this, this will happen, that will happen. They think more negative than positive. No. Let's love our country, let's think positive, but let's love one another. Because if in our speaking here...
Do you think parties like Umodzi party and the others that are described in some circles as small parties or briefcase parties are making any difference, because people don't even vote for you to go to State House, for instance?
No, the issue is not State House. I think Umodzi party, to tell the truth, has done a lot. We have educated people, and if Malawians vote the same way...
Which people?
Everybody who's listening, because we are helping the government. I've just given an idea here how we can do the economy. If I was not a politician with a party, I would never do this, because it would not be acceptable. What gives me a mandate to speak here is this. And if you do not have small parties, you can never cross-fertilize ideas. This is what has happened, that you have actually changing people who have never thought differently. They're thinking the same way and they're behaving the same way. Their political systems have been molded by...
So why are not people voting for Umodzi party, for instance? They vote for the same parties, the Democratic Progressive Party, if not the UDF, if not the UDF, the MCP. These are the parties that are doing well during elections. What's the problem?
Kamuzu brainwashed us quite deeply. It will be very difficult for us. I'm a teacher. Kamuzu brainwashed us so deep to the point that we are never able to understand who we are, to appreciate what we are. We are all looking at quick gains. We are looking at quick resources, and you'll find that a lot of people who are doing politics in other areas, if they don't do politics, they have no job. They get very poor after they get out of office. So you can actually see how they will protect their interests regardless of the benefits which are having to the nation. So it requires us as a people to start telling each other that what is more important is basically the long-term gains which the nation will get, where you participate in, rather than your short-term gains and an individual, because individualization is what has caused this country to go to where it is. And that can only happen when people have confidence. And a lot of us don't have, because Kamuzu's politics were so deep, he brainwashed us so much, that a lot of us don't have self-confidence. And if anything, we get angry easier than cope with the system. So we use our emotions, we don't use our heads, which means that at most of the times we will actually have people who will take advantage of the situation. And I think that is what we need to get rid of and to move forward. And I hope Umodzi party is doing its part to actually make Malawians reflect on their own and come up with a concrete idea. And Umodzi party would want to participate in any systems in Malawi, but it's not saying it's the only one. I mean, we're saying that if new parties come up and they're better than us and Malawians look at a better picture, that's fine. But we will always play our role. And our role is to educate Malawians, to civic educate, so that the people who have been ruling us over time should not take us for granted again. Now, if they take us for granted again, it's our fault by not listening. But if we listen, we're going to demand what is ours, and we're going to move in the right direction, and we're going to achieve the objectives. And there are only three objectives in human life. One, education, which opens up doors for everybody else. Two, employment, which makes you participate in your country to the best of your knowledge. And then three, security, which makes you perform at the highest level. So if these things are managed properly, which Umodzi is advocating for, then the nation is built.
In other economies, when people feel that they're not satisfied with our particular party that's in power at a particular time has performed, they switch and vote for some other party. That is still a challenge in Malawi. You've touched on it, but can you explain a little bit further? Because it seems most voters, according to some observers, are still stuck with the same political parties, and they can't see any other party that can do better than the party that they favor or they support.
No, but this, you see, has been engineered from the beginning. That's what I'm saying. It's very difficult for people to look at it. First and foremost, the systems were put in place to make sure that people get suppressed. A slave, a servant, is a person you command and you dictate to. A slave does no rights. A servant does no rights. You dictate to them. So what the political systems in Malawi did, starting with Kamuzu, we are all servants of Kamuzu. We are all slaves of Kamuzu. He was just doing whatever he wanted. He was giving us cards. He would arrest us anytime. Nobody was free. Now, we didn't have real freedom. This is why we wanted the multi-party system. When we got the multi-party system, we came up with a UDF, which basically sold each and every company. Now, under Kamuzu, there were people who were able to earn a living. Okay? Under Kamuzu, they were earning a living. When Bakiri came, even those people were actually removed because all the companies which were creating jobs were removed. Not only were they removed, the population also grew. So there's a growth of a population, but also lack of opportunities. So everybody now has become a slave again. Because now everybody is looking at who can save me, who can help me, I'm in trouble, I want somebody to hold my hand. Now that culture of holding his hand has been perpetuated now to the point that the education system has collapsed, to the point that even if you get educated, chances are you not get a job or a job which you want, which means you need to still look at some people who can help you. So what have we done now in politics? We have actually created poverty and then started solving it by giving handouts to the people at the time when it matters. So when it comes to campaigning, where there's no bridge, a bridge will happen. Where there's no classroom, a classroom will happen. Where the orphans are hungry now, they will have food. Now, when the people look at that short-term gain, they think it's perpetuation of the future. So therefore, the people who are actually doing that are looked at properly. Now, what happens is this. An individual can never manage these things because the nation is big and the people are so many. A government can because it has resources, GCs and everything else, okay? And they can also have rallies which they call developmental, okay? But they can also choose an MP who they want and fund him to the point that they can actually do those things. So you see now that when people vote, they say we cannot vote for you because you're not government. What they're saying is we cannot vote for you because you cannot give us the money. Now, you see that perpetuation now of actually keeping the same people. So if people like me come, people will say, okay, fine. You want to stand here? We want a bridge, we want a road, we want this. I can't afford because there's no way I can have the money unless I'm a thief. Now if I get that money directly by sweat, by hard work, I cannot afford it. If I actually get other people to support me, they will be demanding that if we get there, we need contracts. So you are selling your government before you even have been government. So this is the problem we're actually facing. Because unless people understand that the consequences of Malawi is their own making by not appreciating the long-term picture and their role in it, it's going to be tough. And I'm not saying this is an easy task. I'm not naive either. This is why if there's a person who quickly accepts that things are not, it's me. Because you cannot fight a system which is already established and is already deep and there. But we need to teach. I get students who don't know anything in year one. By the time they finish their doctor. So I'm able to modify people's minds and make them learn. So that's what I'm doing here. My training as a teacher has shown me to say if we want to have a nation which will be prosperous, a nation which will become a participant in a global village, a nation where we're going to get respect, then these are the issues which we need to do. This is exactly what I do in the classroom. This is what I'm doing to the nation, so that the nation can understand that. Whether they vote Umodzi or not, that's neither here nor there. What is more important is that we have a country which will move forward and we're all going to benefit and we change. That's the idea of this.
Professor Chisi, thank you very much.
Thanks very much for having me and taking your time to be here today. Thank you.